Keeping It Real Fishing. Thanks for checking out the video. In this video, I'd like to show you and talk to you about the Savage Gear. This is the 3D reaction crayfish. Savage Gear released this lure at ICAST 2014. ICAST is the largest annual trade show in the angling industry. It's where all the manufacturers release the latest and greatest for the upcoming year. And Savage Gear has really been on a tear. They have, since entering the U.S. market only a few short years ago, they have brought out a number of, I feel, truly innovative and some that aren't quite innovative, just very, very cool. Whether it's high detail or just a couple little extra features. Very, very impressed with them. Not a new manufacturer, but they really made their surge into the U.S. market. And we have here for 2014 another very cool product. So let's take a closer look at this 3D reaction crayfish. I have two colors I'm going to show you here. This is the candy color, which is kind of a green pumpkin with purple flake. And then also I went with the red craw. Okay, let's put those off to the side. Let's take a closer look. Here's the red craw. And here is the candy. These baits again come in at 4 inches. And what I like about this lure, and I'm going to roll in some of Savage Gear's previous offerings, is the size. Last year, let me put these down for you guys. Last year, Savage Gear came out with some really awesome stuff. They came out with this guy. This is just called the 3D Craw. And it came in 2 sizes. It came in this one right here, which as you can see is a 5-inch lure, a ½ ounce, and interestingly these were floating. They were hollow here in the main body, and they're also hollow in the claws. So just on a weightless hook, or on a hook, weightless, you could float it. Or of course if you had it on a weighted rig, you could bring it down to the bottom and work in all different ways. So they offered it in this size, and then they offered it in this little guy, which is this little guy right here. And I thought they kind of missed the ideal size. This guy here I think is really tiny. Certainly you can get bites on it, you know, no question. But and I know all these things have their applications. Maybe ultra clear water, high finesse situations, you want something very small, like a nice little simple meal. But I wish that this one was just a little bit bigger. And this one here, conversely, is a really, really big lure. It's a 5-inch craw. I have pretty good sized hands, and as you can see, it's not a small lure at all. And so I kind of wish I had something in between, and we see that here this year with the 3D reaction craw. Now, of course, it's not just a difference in size, it's a difference in approach. Last year, the 3D craw was going for just a purely anatomically correct representation in the water. So the lure really doesn't have any action to speak of. There's nothing here that's going to move passively when you just work it. Right? These things don't catch the water and undulate or anything like that. But as you can see, excuse me, I have a chest cold. As you can see, just kind of handling it, all the little ticks and vibrations and the way the body undulates, it's a very, very soft and pliable plastic. And you just have a general realism to it if you're kind of dragging this slowly across the bottom, something like that. But you don't have action per se. And so wisely, Savage Gear came out with this model. Now the reaction component of the lure in the name is the claws. So let's take a look at those. Savage Gear's take on a claw that, you know, is going to catch the water and flap as it goes down or as you're swimming it through the water. No different than a Strike King. They have their Rage series, or, you know, you name the manufacturer. They kind of just flail it out on an end here. Sometimes they give it kind of a little lip. Anything so it's going to catch the water and flap back and forth on the fall or swimming it along. But apart from that, as you can see, it is still very much kind of anatomically correct. You have everything down to the joints and the segments. It's a highly, highly detailed lure. So what I think Savage Gear really did exceptionally well here, I think they had a home run, is keeping the lure look super realistic, but giving it what was missing, which was kind of that passive action, whereas you don't have to do anything. You just cast it, and letting it fall it's going to have that, you know, swimming action. Or if you're putting it on the back of a jig, it has that swimming action. So I really like that they did that. Let me show you one that I have rigged up here, and we'll talk a little bit more about that action. Here is one rigged up. I have this on a NewTek Lures. It's a Bear jig head. Right, this is one that they sell them skirtless. I really like these jigs. If you haven't checked out NewTek Lures, check them out. They're excellent in terms of being weedless, and just a great overall jig head. And so very, very simple approach here. I was just using this the other day. I didn't want a skirt or anything else. And the reason is, and this is what I'd like to just kind of mention, Savage Gear markets this first and foremost to say, oh, it's a swim jig trailer, and you could, you know, use it in these other ways. I feel that what this lure excels at is really lost if you're using it as a swim jig or if you put a skirt on it. What makes this lure unique in the market is the detail. I mean, look at the detail. We were just talking about it. Let's look at it some more. Everything from just, you know, it's a 3D scan. This is what they market it as, and this is how they achieve it. They truly scan a living crayfish, and so they get every little nook and cranny of its body. To have that detail and to move it along super fast on a swim jig, or even just a regular jig, the skirt is going to be covering half of it, and all you're going to do is have some claws at the end flapping. I guess that's good for them because what do you get, 4 to a pack, and I think they're about $5 or $6. So you're going to go through them, but there's just, you don't need to have this level of realism in that kind of approach. Where I think this excels, similar to last year's model, is in situations where that detail can be appreciated and maybe is the difference maker. Namely, that's going to be very clear water situations or maybe really highly pressured situations. Place where, you know, there's a tournament after tournament, but really in clear water, where maybe you have this on the bottom and you're working it on a bare jig head or maybe a stand-up kind of shaky jig head, and you're working it very, very slowly finesse style, and the fish can kind of nose up to it and take it in for what it is and be fooled, because to that fish it's going to be convinced that it's the real thing because of all the detail that's been incorporated into the design. That's where I think it excels, and that's how I'm going to be using it. I'm not going to cover it up with a skirt or use it on the back of a jig. I could use an untold number of other lures to do that. I just need action. What we have here again is realism, and I would suggest using it for what it excels at, is being a very realistic lure. Now, different than last year's model. Last year's model was filled with air, so it's actually a floating lure. You can actually use it as a topwater lure if you use just a plain hook, unweighted. And the claws are also hollowed out, and so the claws will float up. All right, so we don't have that this year. There's no air cavity in it. These claws do not float. But what we do have, the other cool part about this lure, and let's see, did they put on here 3D scan reaction crayfish? I thought it was actually part of the name, but they don't have it on the packaging. But all of them have rattles. Hear the rattle? So it's a decent rattle. It's a little bit small. Here, I'll poke one out for you. You can see what comes inside. It's a little worm rattle. Glass with 2 small beads. But that's already put into each lure when you take it out of the package. So that's nice. You know, rattles are good things. This is a pretty subtle rattle. But that's really where that's kind of the trifecta of what this lure brings to the table. Highly realistic, with that passive flapping action, and a built-in rattle. All right, so I think there's definitely a place in the market for a lure like this. I like it a lot, and again, I'm going to be using it kind of just like you see here, just on a bare jig head, shake it along, get that rattling action, and let the fish take it in. Let them see all these little appendages. Slow it down, let them see all these details, and then, you can whip it up and have it come back down, and when you do that, you're going to get the flapping action, and I'll show you. There's other videos. Your best view is going to be on Savage Gear's video here on YouTube, but at the end of this, or during it, I'm going to be rolling in some clips of my footage of the action. So, alright guys, that's pretty much it. It's a Savage Gear 3D reaction Rattling Craw. I thought that was the actual name, but I don't see it there on the packaging, but yeah, I think it's a really solid lure. It's a great addition, and again, Savage Gear's been coming out with some great stuff since hitting the U.S. market, and I think they got a winner here. It really has a place, and they've done a great job. So that's the lure, guys, and if you have any questions, feel free, leave them in the comments, and I'll be sure to get back to you. Thanks for watching. There we go. Fish on. There he goes, fish on. Good fish too. Nice fish. It is a nice fish. That's a good one. If I can get him out of this mud. There we go. Woo! That's a good fish right there, guys. It's a good sized fish. We're looking at probably close to 4 on that guy. If you could see, that's on that Savage Gear. That's that 3D flapping craw. Got on that New Tech jig head. Beautiful.
Ready?
Alright guys, there we go. About to weigh this guy up. Bring it in and show you. It's on the 3D flapping craw, Savage Gear. What are we here, November 2nd, right? Brisk day, cold temps, but that's a solid end of year fish right there. Savage Gear. Nice. Stand by.